everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Rebel Love podcast. Today, my guest is Miss Kim Love Jones, an author, speaker, certified professional life and relationship coach. She's recognized as an authority on interpersonal relationships as well as personal growth and development. Ms. Jones, for the last 15 years, has had a passion for speaking to what ails us in our relationships and has directly impacted the lives of many as she fulfills her mission to change the way men and women relate to one another, putting them on a path to happier, more meaningful relationships, both personally and professionally. Welcome, Miss Jones.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I am blessed. I am blessed. Oh my goodness. What an opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to be on your show.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm really, really glad that you could be here with me.
Yes, me too. Me too. I'm so glad things worked out.
Yes, me too. I know it's been a bit of a whirlwind a year and a bit.
Yeah.
2021 doesn't seem too different from 2020 just yet.
No, no, it's actually it's amazing. It's gonna be amazing. It is 2020 WON 1. It's going to be amazing.
Oh, I love that
Wow.
reframe. Nice.
Yes,
Nice.
yes. We're gonna win this year. This year is for winning.
Yeah. Well, I think that we could definitely use the win.
Oh, yes, after the year we've had, absolutely.
Well, today we're going to talk about vulnerability, which I'm really excited to talk about with you. But before we get into that, I'd love if you could tell, we like hearing a little bit about your background and how you ended up being in the position you're in, helping all these people with their love lives and relationships.
Can I tell you, it's so crazy. I was destined for this. I really know that I was. When I was about maybe 6 or 7 years old, I'm the baby in my family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so my sisters are 9 and 10 years older than me, right? And they had boyfriends when I was like 6 or 7, because they were teenagers. And whenever they would get into an argument with their boyfriend or they would get into anything, I would go, "That's not nice. That is not how you treat people." So it's crazy because when I thought about it as I started to grow and I was trying to find my way through my life, it's just crazy because I was like, wow, I've always been this person who's been passionate about helping people with their lives. And so I would do workshops or little groups at my house with my girlfriends and my guy friends and the book clubs and all. And then one thing led to another. One thing led to another, and it just kind of snowballed. And now I officially started, actually was doing it longer than I even said. It's been more like 20 something years, but officially 15 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
my friend started this group at a eatery, at a restaurant. And I went one time, I saw what it was. I said, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And by within 3 or 4 months, I had started running the whole entire group.
Wow. And so
And it was
you go to the restaurant and it's
unbelievable.
kind of like helping people in a group setting.
Yes, and everybody used to just come to this restaurant. It's called Spices and the Grill Restaurant. It's in Long Island, New York. And sometimes it would be like 150 people in the room. It was amazing. It
Wow.
was amazing because it kind of caught on and everybody would start coming, and then we would have a core group around the table, and all of a sudden it just blew up because people want to be heard. They want to feel important. They want to be noticed, and they want to feel valuable. And so what it did was actually was a forum. So it gave everybody a chance to get on the mic and discuss how they felt, and we would just choose topics every week. And every week people would show up every Tuesday at 7 p.m. And it's funny that we're doing this on uh, you know,
Yeah, I can't believe that people would share so vulnerably in front of so many people. Wow,
yes,
that's amazing.
yes,
So people would show up, they would have the opportunity to get on the mic and share their feelings about a certain topic, and literally there'd be 150 people in the room.
yes.
Oh my goodness.
And they would
Wow.
share.
Talk about
Yes, it was
vulnerability. Where
amazing. Yes,
this is like perfect.
amazing. Yes, it really was then, and it is the perfect place to start in this new year in terms of your relationship. It
Mm-hmm.
really is. And so I really felt like that was like my kickoff, you know, and then I just, started from there. I just started coaching from there.
Mm-hmm. Wow,
Pretty
I'm
awesome.
I'm so interested in this setting. Can I ask a few more questions about it?
Sure.
Were the people that showed up, were they in relationships already and talking about like their situations, or were they kind of
Um,
single and looking for a relationship?
Both. It was
Okay.
married, single, or like professionals. I remember the mayor showed up,
Wow.
college professors, doctors, lawyers, police officers, correction officers, teachers, psychologists, psychiatrists. It was amazing. It was
Wow.
absolutely amazing. So people would come and they would just sit in that environment and they would share how they felt. And it was amazing. It was
Yeah.
just amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That
some people would just come and observe
mhm.
because, in order to have that conversation in front of a lot of people, yeah, you have to allow yourself to be vulnerable and you cannot be afraid.
Right.
But, but part of that was when they saw other people opening up, and they kept coming week after week. It grew to like 150 people. It started out with maybe about 30 to 35 people, and
Mhm.
every week, and then all of a sudden it was the talk. It was the talk. Everybody's, oh, you got to go, to the emotions forum. And it was just amazing. I can't wait till COVID is over so I could do it again.
Yeah, wow. So it was called the Emotions Forum.
Yes.
Oh, that's such a
Yes.
great name too. I love that. That's so great.
Yes.
That's so great. And you facilitated this space.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. But
Oh,
I didn't come up with the idea. Two of my good friends came up with the idea. Both men who felt like they weren't being heard, who
oh, I
felt
love
like,
that.
they wanted to create a space for men and women to be heard because there's a lot of things that go on in relationships. And so every week, once I joined the team, both of them had to go back because one was a correction officer, the other one's a police officer, and they both had to go back to doing different things at their job, and they could no longer do it. And they
Hmm.
handed they handed the reins over to me, and I took it and I ran with it.
Wow. Wow. What a
Yeah,
beautiful space to
I,
be part of. That would have been really,
yeah, it
really
really
amazing.
was.
And did that have to stop because of, I guess, because of Corona? And
Not really, but yeah, definitely because of that.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Not completely because of that, but definitely because of that.
Yeah. Okay,
Mhm.
wow. And so that really kind of, I guess then you would have been pretty popular because everyone would have known you. Yeah,
Now
amazing.
everybody's like, Kim, come to here. We want you to do it here. Come here. And I was like, okay, just set it up and I'll come. You
Yeah,
know.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. So, so we're going to talk a little bit today about vulnerability. And I think this is a great place to start because that is like a super vulnerable space. So,
Yeah.
one thing you said was, and I've done similar forums where you see other people speak and it's so courageous that you can feel, you're like, oh my gosh, that just must be so nerve wracking sharing vulnerably in front of so many people. And there's something really special about that, I think, getting up on the mic in front of so many people and really, I don't know, showing part of yourself. I think that's why we get so attracted to musicians because it's that same thing of they're being really, really vulnerable. And I mean, they're also, a lot of them are really amazing. So it's really incredible to witness. But similarly is seeing these people kind of spill their hearts out.
Yes.
And
Yes.
how can we facilitate that within a relationship? If we're in a relationship and you're with someone who's maybe a little bit guarded and you're wanting to increase the intimacy uh, by vulnerability, how can
Mhm.
we how can we do that if we kind of have a partner who's a little bit tough to get through? Like,
Well, I think the most important thing in that context is that you show up being, right? Um, vulnerability is akin to intimacy, right? And a lot of people cover up and they're afraid to be seen because they don't want to be judged, right? And being vulnerable takes a great amount of courage, right? Because most people don't want to allow themselves to be seen. They think that they're going to be judged, right? So if you show up, if you be intimate with your partner, speaking your truth, sharing things that sometimes may be a little painful for you, right? Um, it'll help them to open up because when you share, it'll give them space to share, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it's built. And it may not be built by like the worst thing that has ever happened to them in their lives, but it's built incrementally. Um, Being vulnerable, I tell women this all the time. Show up, right? Being your authentic self. Be
Mm-hmm.
who you are. Don't let the representative rear their head because that's not necessary. When you're really looking for somebody to love you for you, then you has to show up. That you has to show up. So if you want the salad at the restaurant, I'm sorry, if you want the hamburger and the french fries at the restaurant, eat the hamburger and french fries. Don't try to be cute and say, no, I'll just have a salad, right?
Right.
Because if that's not really truly who you are, then you are really showing them somebody that doesn't really exist. I mean, I love salad, but that's my business. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Some people don't want it. So don't get it to be cute and try to be, oh, I'm on a diet and all. Don't. Just show up and be who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do when you do that initially is you weed out who's not for you. Because if they don't like the authentic you, then you'll know within a week. You'll know after the first date, right? So being vulnerable is much the same way. Like you don't have to tell them the worst thing that's ever happened to you, but you can share with them some of the things that concern you, right? And as you do that, you open up a window to have real close conversation, real talk. I'm not hiding myself from you. And you create an environment where they'll open up and share with you. And that's what's really important.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I think about that, that's what I think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think when you first meet someone, there's that real nerve-wracking time where you're like, oh yeah, like exactly what you're saying. Are they going to like me? Where, what parts of myself do I show them? And yeah, and I
Yeah.
think it is kind of a bit of a test. You can go either way, like try to be somebody you're not. I used to be kind of I don't know why I used to do this. It was kind of like a defense mechanism. I used to be the most extreme version of myself because I was like, if you like this version of myself, because it is part of
Yeah.
me, then
Yeah.
you'll like the rest of me because the rest of me is kind of chill,
Right.
you know.
Exactly.
And it
And if
did.
they can deal with that part of you, they can take all of you, the whole enchilada. Right?
That's right. That's right. That was
It
exactly right.
worked.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It did work. But then I was kind of like, okay, so I don't know. I think there's this moment when when you're kind of hanging out with someone and you're like, oh yeah, I don't mind this person, I don't mind this guy, and then you kind of realize you like them, and once you realize you like them, then you're like, oh my gosh, now I'm like aware that I've got the hots for this person. So I'm like a bit self-conscious. It's kind of like it all comes crashing in and you're like, oh my gosh, now
Oh,
I'm watching my behavior more and I'm nervous. And whereas before I was just able to be myself and now I'm acting all weird. And
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
think,
And that's not good either because I'd say this all the time to women, especially to women. Like if when it comes down to you being authentically who you are, right? Men spend their whole life trying to find a woman and then they don't want to change her, right? Does that make sense?
yeah.
And women meet men and they immediately want to change them, right? And so, well, I can change that. I can fix this. I can work with that. Well, men want you to stay just the way you are. If they when they meet you and they see your character and they see how outgoing and fun you are, they don't want you to regress and go into a shell. They want that same person to show up every time. Now, I will say to you this: there are layers to all of us. We're not always one way or the other way,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's good to kind of introduce or to forewarn, I say, because I have this big, amazing, vibrant personality. That's my outdoor personality. When I'm home, I'm quiet and I like to read,
Right.
right? And so there is so many layers to me. And so while I'm loving and I'm kind, I also at the same time, I like my own space.
Mm.
And while I love company and love entertaining, that's also, it's like there's multiple sides to me,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And so, with that being said, it's okay, but don't lose yourself in the hiding. Because when we begin to hide, we begin to cheat our partners from the best part of us.
Mm.
And that's what vulnerability is really all
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
about. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know it's really, really scary for a lot of people. And I think, the tip about when you show up, it's much easier for somebody else to show up when you
Yes,
have that space. And
yes,
it is that scary thing of like, well, am I going to go first or is he going to go first? And I think that that's when those little bridges are built, when we are
yes.
those little
Little by
moments.
little, brick by brick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Brick by brick. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That's how it works. And it doesn't happen like you don't just meet somebody and you throw up on them your whole life. No. We're just saying, when like you're walking down the street, you're having a conversation, maybe you're holding hands, you're just getting to meet them and you want to hold hands because you like them. Um, and you're walking by a place and you say, "Oh, I remember that me and my cousins used to come here all the time and we did all of these fun things." Really, and you start to open up and share about, what your life was like as a kid and how much fun you had with your cousins, right? And it allows them to then say, yeah, and when I was a kid, me and my parents did blah blah blah. And layer by layer, you're opening up and you're being set free. Because I really believe that vulnerability is rooted in freedom. I think that's the best thing since sliced bread, because it requires you to show up and be authentically who you are,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I just think that that's awesome, because it's in the intimacy, the level of intimacy that grows as a direct result of you allowing yourself to be seen is
Mm-hmm.
absolutely amazing. It's amazing. It's our path to freedom.
Mm-hmm. What if we
Yeah.
have some work to do? I'm just like one of a guy I was dating for a little while comes to mind. What if there's some block around that intimacy? Like, for example, this particular person that I'm thinking of, every time I try to have like a deep conversation, or perhaps maybe my approach wasn't right. Maybe I was asking questions that, were too intimate.
Hmm.
How, if there's just blocks around that and someone's just kind of resisting opening up, where do we kind of go from there? Or what are some ways that we can navigate that while, obviously respecting them and respecting ourselves? Um, or I guess, yeah, just navigate that. How do we get through that?
The first thing is that you cannot be anybody but who you are. And if you're being intimate or vulnerable is to get them to open up and they're not, then that is their boundary. Don't ever stop being who you are. Because love, when you love someone, when you care for someone, that's the only way to break down those walls, right? And for some, it's not an instantaneous thing,
Mm-hmm.
because they've been people. The reason why people don't open up for the most part is because they've been hurt before. They've shared their innermost. They have thought that I trust this person will never do anything to hurt me, and then boom, right in their face, something goes wrong. And so it may take people, a little longer to show up, to become intimate, to become vulnerable. And that's okay, because there is no time limit on somebody that you care about. When you know that that's who they are, the trust that, leave that to be what it is. You just continue to be who you are,
Mm-hmm.
loving, kind, um, open, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because people, love being open. Now it's scary even for you, right? Because now you're saying, um, oh boy, I don't know if I want to open up, because you're not opening up. You're
Right.
making me feel like I want to pull back. That's entirely up to you. That's entirely up to you. But I think that it's advantageous to be open, to be honest, to be in this space of freedom. Technically, people crave that. They
Mm-hmm.
want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to be loved. I don't care what anybody says, unless you live in the hills and, in a cabin in the woods. You don't want
By
anybody to.
yourself.
Right, exactly. But because you recluse from the world. I'm done with this. I'm tired. I don't want to, stop the world. I want to get off. But most people really do want somebody with whom they can communicate and share with. Every once in a while, though, you do find people who are not that open.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
really can't force somebody to be something they don't want to be, I guess.
No, you can't. You can't. All you can do is keep being you and showing up in
Mm-hmm.
love, with a loving, winning personality, being your best self, giving your best. And if it's meant that they would be able to trust anybody, it would be you. Because part of the reason why people don't want to be vulnerable is because other people have really let them down. They have
Mm-hmm.
been let down. They are really hurt. Some of them are broken, and so that's a painful place to be. And I would say to allow them the time and the space that they need to heal, even if you're not up front and in the center, because that's important. You don't have to stay there if it's not what you want and need,
Right.
but afford them that, give them that,
Right.
give them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really important distinction to make, actually, that you can still really love someone from afar if it's not the right fit for you. It doesn't mean that you
Right,
have to like sacrifice your whole
right,
life. Mm-hmm.
right,
Mm-hmm.
right. Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about more specifically about what showing up looks like. Like, what kinds of things does
Mm,
showing up look like?
that's good. That's good. Showing up means that no matter what anybody else thinks of you, what anybody else says about you, that you're showing up for you. You're gonna let your light shine in relationships. Um, I often talk about this reciprocity piece. A lot of people want to be loved, right? And I've said this quite often. And they show up into wanting a relationship, and they want the relationship because they want something from it, right? That's wonderful. But if you show up in the relationship looking for what you're going to get opposed to what you can give, you are out of bounds. Because the whole point of a relationship is really service, right? And a lot of people don't see it that way because they think, well, what about reciprocity? What about me? What about me? If you come in the fullness of who you are authentically, without this, hidden agenda, you know, other than probably wanting to be married and, create something real, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you show up and you're bringing your best self, then the other person in turn will show up to bring their best selves, right? That is our hope, right? That is our hope. But it's important to understand that in these relationships, We just need to be clear about who we are, what we want, you know, and live through that, not through I'm gonna can all I get and get all I can, right? That's the wrong attitude. It doesn't really work. And so if you show up being your authentic self, that's how you win in relationships. How can, I often say, like, when you have a lot of friends, I have a lot of friends, but that's indicative of who I am, right? But it's also indicative of people who want to be a blessing to me as well, right? And I've carefully chosen, like, they've been vetted, if you get what I mean. They've
Right.
been vetted. I know that you've always had, at some point there was a crossover, and you have my best interest at heart. So, what do I want to do? I want to serve you as your friend to the best of my ability. I may not be there every day. I may only talk to you once every month. When we talk, we may talk for 2 hours. We got to get it all in. What happened with the kids, this, that, and the other. How's this and how's that? But what we give to each other is a listening ear. And I'm always showing up and I'm in that right now moment with them. Whatever is going on, we haven't talked about or whatever, I'm giving you the best of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
if you show up like that, that's one way of showing up. Um, Showing up by being dependable, you know, knowing when a person knows that they can count on you, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
Complete and total game changer. Like, you're always going to be there. Like, you're on time. Um, you just want to show up and give your best.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you need to go to the doctor, or you talk to me, say I'm sick. You need to go to the doctor. All right, I'm going to come and get you and take you to the doctor. Being that kind of friend, right, will net you friends who do the same for you. So that's what I mean when I mean showing up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a really close friend of mine actually, and it's so lovely. I remember because I remember someone saying to me about the children, his children. He said the biggest gift you can give to a child is your total undivided attention, and that
Hmm.
always really really stuck with me. And another friend of mine who's very close to me, I remember we lived together for a little while, and it was so lovely every single time. Like, say for example, he'd be working on the couch with his laptop, and I'd say, excuse me, and then I'd say his name. I won't say it here just to protect his privacy. And then he would stop what he was doing and he'd look up and he'd look at me. And I remember thinking, wow, like that actually doesn't really happen anymore. Like the people would just keep going and then be like,
Yes,
mm-hmm, and he would
yes,
stop what he was doing and look at me, and he'd relax his body, he'd like put his hands down and relax his body. And I was like, man, like even the fact that you did that small gesture of like looking at me and
yes,
connecting with me, it just made
yes,
such a difference. And
yes,
I said to him, I really know, I want you to know I really noticed that. And it's really lovely. Like it's really, really lovely to have that attention. And he said, yeah, he goes, I'm very conscious of it because my dad doesn't do it for me. He said, when I speak to my
right,
dad, he's just like completely doesn't look up and just doesn't acknowledge me. And he's like, and I know what it feels like. So I don't want to do that. And
right.
it was just this beautiful exchange of energy in action. And it was very consistent, like you're saying he would do that a lot. And I mean, I was aware that he was working on the couch, so I didn't want to like interrupt him a lot. But we would eat a lot together. So like if I was preparing or something and I needed to ask him something, and
Mhm.
it was just really lovely. I remember feeling like, oh my gosh, this is what showing up looks like. This
Yes,
behavior.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. That is it. And that's how you begin to build that trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not the big ginormous things. It's the little things.
Yeah.
It's the little things, like when you look me in my eye. I was just in Washington, D.C. in December, right? And I went to DC and I was driving back in my car and I was on the phone talking to my friend and I said, oh, I'm passing this place and I was gonna move there and he said to me, he didn't say it to me then. Later on he called me. He said, you gotta watch your language. You're not moving there. Like I was like, why? He's like, because everything is going to be fine. So you don't even need to talk about that. Watch your language. And I thought to myself, wow. And it was because when I was talking about it, it was a past experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I remember feeling like, you know what, I think I'm gonna sell my house and I'm just gonna move down here to Jersey, New Jersey. You've been in New York, so it's not far.
Yeah.
And and I'm like, but it was when I was in that headspace of I'm gonna sell my house and move, right?
Mm-hmm.
He says none of that is gonna happen. Watch your language, watch what you speak. And when he said that to me, I was like, kind of taken a little aback. But then I was like, oh yeah, I've got to watch my language. That is so important because you draw into yourself what you speak about. Whatever
Mm-hmm.
you focus on, you get more of, right? And so we know that the whole dynamic of what we want to manifest for our lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even the mere mention of that is going backwards. It's not going forward. And so it was a good check. I needed to hear it. And it reminded me like that he was so conscious of you're going forward. He reminded me in that moment. And that meant so much to me
Mm-hmm.
that he was reminding me that I am moving forward and
Mm-hmm.
not backward.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was so powerful to me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm watching now, I'm consciously watching my language, watching what I speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was just a small little thing, but it was
Yeah.
huge to me.
Right.
It
Yeah.
means something. Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like you did it in a really respectful way, and that you
Yes.
guys have an existing relationship
Yes.
where that was, received in a way that you got it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because I guess that's
Yes.
the other thing as well. I find sometimes you'll say something well-meaning to someone, and then they'll take offense. And then my question to myself is always like, okay, what did I say, or how did I say it that
Mm,
they might take offense? Because what was going on here. And I guess my remedy for that is, if someone takes something I see, I'm like, well, hang on a second, let me acknowledge it straight away, because
right.
I want to make sure we get this right. Like, I don't want you to think, because
Anything to be
I'm
lingering.
yeah, and I don't want
Right.
them to think that I'm having a dig or anything at them, because that's not how I operate. Like, if I'm having a dig, it's usually pretty obvious. So
Right.
it's not like it's very explicit.
Right.
It's not like a subtle thing. So,
Right.
there's obviously some sort of misunderstanding here. And I feel like even that, like that opening up that conversation for like, hang on a second, let me get this right. Let me just get complete with that and
Make sure
apologize.
you understand. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And
What I meant.
similarly, not taking things, like, I always come from a place of, well, I try to anyway. I mean, I'm sure I have my days where I don't, but I really try to come from a place where giving people the benefit of the doubt, and
Yeah.
believing that they're trying the best that they can, knowing that their best is always changing, just as
Yes.
ours is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. That's wonderful. I like that. I like that. That is a great, great way to think. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I think when you come from a place of like, even like the other day, I was out with a friend and he said I was wearing these shoes and he was making fun of me. He said, "Oh, I like your shoes." And he was having a dig. And I just totally didn't take it like that. Like, I was like, I'm not going to take it like that, because as soon as I don't take it like that, it changes the whole dynamic.
Yes. Yes.
And
Based on right how you perceive it.
right.
Yes. Yes. I just did a workshop, 21-day challenge, with a group of people, wonderful people, some of whom I've never met, and it was amazing. And I challenged them to unlock their love. And perception really is one of the major things that we need to work on, because sometimes, we don't have to wrestle with everything that's being said to us. You get to choose, right? And in addition to that, are you really seeing it the way that it's really being said? Either
Right.
way, right? So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you do need to be guarded depending upon who you're around, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
But other times, most of the times, you don't, because you're usually around people who genuinely care about you and care about your well-being, right? Because you really wouldn't be around them if they did not, you know. So the whole idea of how you receive things, that's so powerful. That
Mm.
is so powerful. I love that. I love that you did that.
Yeah, well, I remember I had a kind of a bit of a revelation with internet dating as well, because I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so exhausting. I'm just not meeting high quality men. Like,
Uh-huh.
what's going on? And then I was like, okay, Talia, have a look at your behavior. Like, what are you contributing to this energetically? And then I was
Yes,
looking at like the way I was chatting with them. And I was also looking at my guardedness attitude. Like, I was, and I was very guarded. And then I was like, okay, so and I said this to myself, I want you to practice being more open, even just in your intention talking to these guys for the first time.
yes,
And what happened was I had such a difference in response from men. And then I started meeting these much higher quality men. And I was like, oh
yes,
my gosh, the only thing that changed
yes,
was my mindset.
yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the number one thing that needs to change. That's the thing that we really need to wrap our heads around, because sometimes we're just stuck
Yeah.
and we're not even, we don't mean to be, like, but our environment, DNA, a lot of things contribute to why we feel the way that we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which stops us from being vulnerable, um, which stops us from having the courage to go out and do things. But everybody I have ever met wants to be loved.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And some people get pets because it's easier. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But everybody wants to be loved, and they want to belong to something greater. They want to produce at a greater level. They
Mm-hmm.
want to serve, right? And so when you get to that point in your life where you understand that the bridge from where you are, right? Right now, and the bridge to where you're going is your mindset, it's the complete and total game changer.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to change the way I'm doing things. I have to open myself up to love. I have to be more open because I'm being closed. I'm trying to, be cute, or I'm trying to be accepted. And I think that if I show up being this way, that they're not going to like me. But then if you show up being that way and they don't like you, they saved you a lot of time,
Mm-hmm.
because you're awesome, because you're awesome. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to know that you're awesome. You got to know. I just had them doing like I am statements, affirmation,
Mm.
you know, and you have to tell yourself that. I tell myself that now so much. Like, I literally feel the vibration, the energy in me shift. When you understand that you are worthy, that you are enough, that you can show up and be authentically who you are, and not be afraid, and not be closed off, because that's bondage. And the last time I checked, I wanted to be free. I want to be free to love,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't have them both. You're either gonna be free, or you're gonna be in bondage, you
Mm.
know. And I don't like bondage. I want to be free, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I love that. I love what you said.
Yeah, it really made a difference, because I think what happened was I didn't realize that I was doing that, because I started looking at the situation and I was like, I've been doing this for a long time. Like, something's not
Okay, what
working
were you
here.
doing specifically though? Because I want to know, what were you doing?
You mean before I realized what I was doing?
Yes,
I
yes,
I guess I had this attitude. That's a really good question, by the way. I guess I had this attitude of it's never going to happen. Like, I'm never going to find anyone. And people would say things like, because you're on a bunch of different apps, and like, here's some things people say. Well, Tinder's just a hookup app. And what
right,
got me over that hurdle was because Tinder's one of the apps that I was on. But then I was like, okay, what got me over that was one of my best friends met his wife now on that app, and she's amazing. I'm like, okay, they
wow,
have 2 kids now. They met on Tinder, and it's I mean, they obviously hooked up, but they also found love. So,
right.
it's like it's like, okay. I mean, I don't know if the hookup came
It
before the
was a
love or who knows
win-win,
what
right?
happened.
It was a win-win
It
either
was a
way.
win-win. So the thing is, so that knowing that, I was like, well, it's possible. Because every time I hear someone
Yeah,
say it's just a hookup app, it's like, well, actually, I know someone who met someone really wonderful, and it's not the first friend who that's happened to. So it's like
right.
it is possible, and it is. I think it's just exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting being on these apps, and you're like, oh my goodness, asking the same questions, and then like filing through all the profiles, and do you know what I mean? Trying to look and then it's kind of a weird window shopping because when you meet someone in person, you get the vibe of their essence of their being. So it doesn't,
Yeah,
I mean, I remember your looks to me are just one part of the puzzle. I remember not being attracted to somebody, and then the more I got to know that person, the more I
yeah.
fell in love with them, and my
Attractive.
eyes
Yeah,
changed. I literally felt
yeah,
my eyes change, and that
yeah,
experience was like,
yeah.
I've been with men who are incredibly handsome and not very pretty people on the inside, and so
Right, right.
and that also shines through. It's like, well, it's not attractive. It doesn't matter how aesthetically pleasing you are
Yes,
if it's not on the inside as well, you
right.
know.
If you have no substance,
Yeah, and
no
there wasn't a
real
lot of
substance.
substance with a lot of those
Right,
pretty people. Not all of them, of course. I mean, I'm not saying
right.
it's not a
I know what
blanket
you
rule.
mean.
Yeah,
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 yeah. That's important.
so I guess I was like, okay, you say, and this is what I'm saying to myself, Talia, you say that you're being open, but are you really? That was the question I was asking myself. Are you really? And then I was kind of like, this is how I talk to myself. Okay, let's try. Let's try then. Like,
Right.
let's try doing this other thing. Because I remember I went to a therapist once. This was years and years and years ago. And I was with
Hmm.
my partner at the time. And I remember I was going through a time where I was kind of on his case a lot. And I was like, why am I on this guy's case a lot? That's not who I am. There's something
Right,
going on. And I remember my
right.
therapist said to me, well, what I want you to do is I want you to try on the next time he does something that irks you, I want you to try on just being calm and being okay with it. And and what that did was
Right.
like it still irked me, but I changed my reaction, I changed my perception. And that was such a great lesson for me because I was like, okay, it gave me a glimpse of well, you are in control. You are choosing your response. So you can choose
Yes.
different if you want. And that kind
That's
of yeah, that
yes,
lesson always stuck with
emotional
me.
intelligence.
Mm.
Emotional intelligence. When you start to understand that the one person you can control is you,
Mm-hmm.
you change your integrity, who you are as a person, your core values. What is the end game for you? I ask people that all the time because sometimes you have to pick up my book. You have to pick up my book,
I will.
Perfectly Imperfect. But sometimes what we do is we literally wage war. And while we may win the battle, we lose the war. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because we get so, caught up on the one thing.
Right.
And the end game is I want happiness, I want peace, I want
Mm-hmm.
love, I want joy. And those little things will have us so messed up. They'll have you fighting and arguing and over nonsense. And then
Yeah.
when you think about it, when your perception changes, you're like, wait a minute. Is this that important that I'm willing to tear my partner up completely down,
Mm-hmm.
um, just to win this battle?
Mm-hmm.
To prove that I'm right and they're wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when you ask yourself some of those questions, it changes. It changes the way you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to win battles. I want to win the war, or vice versa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
don't. I don't want to. I want to have ultimately happiness and peace and joy. So if that's what I want, then there are some things that I'm going to have to let go. And I'm not talking about major things.
Right.
I'm talking about the things like, you left the toilet seat up.
Right. The little things. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting.
It's
Like we were talking about
important.
before, how all the little acts of vulnerability and kindness can build the bridges. All the little acts of anger about little things
Yes.
like this, or let's see, can equally,
Tear it down.
yeah, tear them
Yes.
down. Yeah. It's like the marble
Yes.
jars when Brene Brown talks about the marble jars. Have you heard about that?
Oh, not the marble jars.
So she talks about basically exactly what we're talking about, like the every little small act. It's like you have a jar, and then it's
Her
like,
daughter. Her
yeah,
daughter. I
y-
saw that. I
that's
saw that.
right. Yeah,
I saw
I'm
that.
gonna link that video in this in these show notes because it's
Yes,
so,
I
such a
saw
great
that.
excerpt. Yeah, and so yeah, building up those marbles in that marble jar, and every time those little niggling things happen, or a breach of trust happens, then
Yes.
a marble comes
Yes.
out of the marble jar.
Yes. Yes. And that's exactly how it works, as a matter of fact. That's exactly how it works. And so if we want to build something great, then we would want to continue to put marbles in the jar, good ones.
Mm-hmm.
You want to keep, and it's little acts, it's little things like thoughtfulness. Babe, I made you a cup of coffee, or I got you something that I knew, that they needed, or, little things. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to cost $200. It could just be a t-shirt. Oh, I was at the store and I saw a nice little t-shirt that I thought you would like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
with some
Yeah.
cute saying on it or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the thing that lets you know that somebody's really checking for you and loving on you. And it feels amazing.
It does feel amazing. It really does. It really does. And it's so easy just to build those little moments, isn't it? It really makes a difference.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
It does. And you can win with that attitude. You could win with that attitude
Mm-hmm.
because that's what it takes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it takes. That's how you win.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you win. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Kim, thank you so much for being here today. This has been so great. I really love chatting to you. I feel like I had this last time we had a little chat too. Like your energy is so calming. You just got this beautiful calming energy. So
Is it?
yeah, and that's all.
Sometimes
I was
it
going to
depends
mention
on
that
what we're
before
talking
actually.
about.
That's the holding space. So like have you heard about
Yeah.
the you know how when you speak calmly, then you kind of like
Mhm.
influence without even knowing the other person who you're speaking to speak calmly?
Really? I didn't even know that.
I feel like that is notice it next time. Try it next time when you like if someone's speaking really hard, like rushed and frantic, and then you're like, oh
Uh-huh.
my gosh, and then you kind of just really rein it down and
Oh yeah,
calm it.
that's how I no, that's what I do. I
Yeah, you
do
do.
that
You
to
totally
people
do
who
that.
are no, 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 because sometimes I'm a little frantic. But what I do, like if I'm having a conversation, let's say with my sister or something, and things are starting to get a little, ramped up, I'll lower my voice.
Yeah, you're really good at it.
So if she wants to hear what I have to say, she has to quiet herself in order to hear me. So, it just depends, it depends on who I'm talking to. But sometimes I'm, a little, there's layers to this. There's layers, there's
Yeah.
levels and layers. But yeah, yeah, I love where I am right now. I think that we should all fall in love with wherever we are right now and embrace it. I think once we embrace that, it won't be as hard for us to show up.
Mhm.
Once we do that, you know,
Mhm.
like just love who you are, whoever that may be. Wild, crazy, just be that person. I'm very silly. I like to have fun. I got jokes. I love every bit of who I am. 95% of it, because nobody, is all the way there. But who I am right now in this moment, in this space, at this time, I absolutely love. I love her. She's amazing. That's where I am, and I speak to that.
Yeah, it feels really nice to be to be having this conversation with you. Thank you so much.
You're awesome. You are so awesome. I love you.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
I'm so happy to be here. If people want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
They can contact me at reallovejones.com,
Mhm.
or they can email me at reallovejones678@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook, Kim Love Jones. I am on IG, Real Love Jones. And yeah, they can contact me that way.
Awesome, perfect. And I'll put all of the links mentioned in the show note episode for this episode at rebellove.com/EP19. Again, that's rebellove.com/EP19. Kim, thanks again. Happy
Thank you,
2021.
Kitty. I know, right? One WON. Awesome. This was awesome. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
having me on your show.
Thanks for listening to the Rebel Love podcast, the podcast about love, sex, relationships, and money. If you like this episode, please support us by subscribing and leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform. And find all the details of this episode and more at rebellove.com/podcast.